2.
Welcome back to Mountain Minds Monday. We're a Tahoe Silicon Mountain event. And before we get to our speaker, I'm going to introduce Josh Miller, who is our sponsorship coordinator, and he's going to tell you about the sponsors for tonight's event.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh. As Rachel mentioned, I want to thank our sponsors for making nights like tonight possible, helping pay for us to rent the venue and get pizza and everything else. Holland & Hart, Dick Schulte is a partner at Holland & Hart. They're a gold sponsor of ours. And we have a number of silver sponsors, Mountain Workspace. And in case you guys didn't know, they just opened about 2 months ago in Incline Village. And this Thursday, they're hosting a mixer open house for anyone to stop by, get free drinks and refreshments, 5 to 7 o'clock this Thursday in Incline Village. Mobo Law, local law firm, doing estate planning and business law, IP law, lots of different types of law, as well as the Lift co-working. The Lift is a co-working space near the Truckee Airport. And New Leaders. New Leaders does web and mobile design and development services. So if you have a company that needs some outsourced services, they can help you with that. And then we have a number of community partners. We have Pizza on the Hill, who is providing us the pizza that we're having tonight. And Truckee Tahoe Community Television, recording tonight's events and broadcasting to anyone who can't be present with us or wants to watch tonight's events later. And Truckee Chamber of Commerce, who is also here tonight and collaborates with Tahoe Silicon Mountain on a lot of activities in Truckee. Thanks, Rachel.
And do you want to give us a...
Yeah, so I also want to start giving a little shout out as a group to our individual sponsors. We have a number of individual sponsors who donate $150 a year to be annual sponsors of Tahoe Silicon Mountain. The $150 is actually a really great deal too if you look at it. Just if you're coming to these events often, it includes 1 alcoholic beverage or 2 sodas and admission to the TSM events. So $150 is a great way to contribute to the TSM annually. We also have sponsors for students attend for free. So we have an initiative where any students in Truckee can come to these events for free. And we have sponsors that are contributing specifically to that initiative. So if you're interested in either of those, stop by and see me afterwards. Love to talk to you about them.
Thank you so much, Josh. All right, so our main event. So I'm going to introduce you to Michelle. I've got her bio here. And before I do that, though, today we're going to do a format where she goes through her presentation and gets a good flow going, and then we'll hold questions until the end. So make note of them. She's happy to answer them all at the end. So introducing Michelle Rebaleati. So she's a Multimedia Production Specialist who graduated from UNR in 2014. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering. Besides working a multitude of high-profile university events, she also develops creative video and audio content. In addition to recording and mixing audio for film and music, Michelle produces quality video and 360-degree video content. She also instructs students and faculty to further develop their talents in audio and video. And we are just so pleased to have her and so thankful she's here to give us this presentation, and I'll let her take it away.
Thank you. I got that on my own.
Thanks.
So hi everyone, my name is Michelle, and like they said before, I'm a multimedia production specialist at the University of Nevada, Reno. And I do a multitude of different events going through all sorts of different things at the university. But one of the most fun is now virtual reality. And I want to ask everybody, who in here has done virtual reality? So quite a few of you. If you haven't, hopefully there will be some time at the end where you guys will be able to try out some of the 2 systems that we have here. And for those of you that have tried virtual reality, I just want to let you know this is going to be kind of a broad overview of everything, so I apologize in advance if it's a review for you, but I want to make sure that everybody understands what virtual reality is. So let's start with what is reality? That seems like a really wide term when you're asking that question. And it can be defined in a multitude of different ways. But how we're going to define it here and how I'm going to define it is the technical way of what reality is and what it means for virtual reality and augmented reality. So we're going to start with this spectrum here. I call it the reality spectrum. And we live in a time right now that's full of real world and computer-generated graphics. Everybody has a smartphone. Well, most everybody has a smartphone. And we deal with the internet and computers all the time. It's part of our real world. But when I'm talking about the reality spectrum, we're here. We're on this side of the spectrum. This is the real world, or the real environment. And this is how I'm going to describe what augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality, how they fall into this spectrum. So I'm going to go ahead and start it off with augmented reality, and that is a mix of real life and virtual reality, but it's more of an overlay on top of what is actually happening. So when you think about this, a few of you might know what this app is on the smartphone. This is called Pokemon Go, and people can run around actually catching Pokemon through this virtual standpoint. And this is what we call augmented reality. It's mostly reality, but with virtual elements overlaid onto the real life. So this is where we fall under the spectrum for augmented reality. Now, when we're thinking about other types of reality, who has seen Iron Man and the cool development that he has with his headset? Mixed reality is a mixture of that. So it's a mixture of augmented reality and virtual reality. If you look at the screen, the woman on there is wearing what is called a HoloLens, which is a augmented reality headset. But she's also looking at the computer with the mic, with the motorcycle, and then off to the left of her, there's a motorcycle that is displayed virtually. So as you can see, it's a mixture of that overlaid digital with real life, and that falls kind of on this side of the spectrum. Still being able to interact with the real world, but then also being able to interact with the digital world. Now, we'll go ahead and go straight to virtual reality. And for the course of this, we're going to be mostly talking about virtual reality, because that's the headsets that we have here today. But when you're thinking about virtual reality, it completely excludes you from the real world. So it's completely digital, and you have a lot of blocked vision, I would say, from the real world. And that falls completely on the computer-generated side of this spectrum. So what really is virtual reality? I know you guys have probably seen the headsets. You can see the headset up here. But the definition that I have today is a three-dimensional computer-generated environment which can be explored and interacted with by a person. And that is from VRS.org, which is a virtual reality site that produces a lot of content. So that's our technical term of what virtual reality is. But what does that really mean? There's a lot of computer-generated things that we interact with every single day. Whether it's on your phone or it's on your laptop, or you're dealing with internet, anything like that. So I'm going to break it down into two separate designations of what virtual reality is. So we'll start with mobile VR, and it kind of starts with augmented reality when we're talking about how you interact with the world around you. So mobile VR, obviously, you'd use your smartphone or any type of mobile device. So it's not tethered to a computer, it's not tethered to a console. You're free to roam around within any space that you have a smartphone. So up on the screen, you can see the Google Cardboard up on the top, and you can put your phone into a cardboard little box that you fold up. Or you can even have the Google Daydream, which is right underneath. There's also different types of headsets, the Samsung Gear, that all represent mobile VR. Well, what does that really mean? Mobile VR is a mixture of your smartphone and headset, but we like to call it as 2 degrees of freedom. 3 degrees of freedom in the sense that you can turn around, imagine your head kind of on a swivel, but you can't look underneath items, you can't walk around certain items, but you can sometimes pick up with it, so limited controls. And you can see right here that it even have a little remote that you can interact with items depending on the game that it was developed. So there's some limited controls, but you can still look around and kind of develop within that world. Now we're talking about computer VR, which is console-based or off of a computer. So PlayStation has a headset, and that's usually tethered to either the console or the computer. And you get a lot more out of a console or computer VR just due to resolution and what we like to call the 6 degrees of freedom. So in this environment, in a lot of these environments, you can look underneath items, or you can walk around it. You can also turn completely around, and you can interact with your environment in a very unique way. So if you look at the very bottom, haptics is this new creative way that people have developed to interact with the world. So instead of just using a controller, many people, this right underneath here is called the VR glove, and it sends hot, cold, and pain receptors. So as you're playing games, if you're near a fire, you could feel the fire in your hand. Sometimes in the VR world, you stick your hand into an ice bucket, and then you'll be able to feel the ice that's going around you. They even have full body suits, so if you're playing like a first-person shooter game, you'll be able to feel the impact on your chest or on your face or anywhere within the body that they've developed. So it's a really interesting and great way to interact with this computer-generated environment. And very different from when you imagine either your PC or you're playing games in that kind of way. It's much more personal and very, very immersive. So when we talk about these kind of headsets that are developed in the virtual world, there are a lot. More and more are coming out every single day. But I'd say the two main ones right now are the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. And both of these headsets they occlude your vision from the real world, as you can see. They have cameras kind of on the front, so it can see your environment, so it knows if you're getting close to a wall, which is very helpful in a lot of ways. But it occludes your vision from the real world so that you're completely immersed in this environment. But I wanted to bring up the AR headset, and I'm mostly going to be talking about virtual reality, but I wanted to show the differences between augmented reality and virtual reality. If you look at the headset, it looks like a pair of glasses. You can see all the way through it. That's how augmented reality is different. You can see the people in this room. Say if I was wearing that headset, I would be able to see all of you, but I'd also be able to see whatever is coming onto the screen. So it can have an interesting, if you're the only one wearing that headset, you might be seeing like a dragon flying around the room. So, but it is a very interesting way to put on these different headsets. So you're still able to interact with the real world. Now, going a little farther into it, why does it seem so real to us? I mean, you could put on a headset and feel like you're standing on Mount Everest, but really you're still in Truckee. So why is that? Well, the technology uses two screens right in front of your eyes, and they are projected about the same ocular distance as your eyes. So just like you perceive looking at that tree outside or the person sitting next to you, these headsets are the same ocular distance as your eyes, so it's mimicking what you would see in real life. And I don't know if most of you can see, but there are slight differences. So he's within this shot of the frame, but if you can kind of tell, he's a little closer over here. Just like your eyes see differently, your screens on your headsets also seem a little bit different. So that's what makes it seem so real. Now, breaking it down even farther, there are two types of immersive experiences that we commonly see today. And that's 360 video and a 3D world. And 360 video is much like the panoramic image that you see with your smartphone. How many of you have taken like a smartphone image of that? So that's very similar to what 360 video is, but it's that panorama projected onto a sphere, and then that sphere onto the headset. So you're able to move around in 2 degrees of freedom, like I had mentioned before. You can turn around, you can look up and down, you can't look underneath items, and you can't really walk around anything. But the 3D world, you're able to walk around, and it's more immersive in the sense being able to look under a table or picking up items or doing that kind of thing. Now, 360 video isn't 2 degrees of freedom, or 6 degrees of freedom yet, but I imagine within a year from now, it'll probably be a little bit different. Things are changing so quickly. But with the 360 and the 3D videos, we really like to break it down into kind of this real experience to a real or imaginary experience. So the real experiences are a lot more so, I took a 360 camera to an event, I recorded it, streamed it live, or somebody was able to look back on it, kind of much like the event today. Or a 3D world is a real or imaginary experience. If you think of a lot of the games that you see on either PC or Xbox, those real or imaginary experiences are getting even more real all the time. And the experience can be developed in a way that mimics a real life experiences, not just something that's fantasy. And then again, back to the 3 degrees of freedom and the 6 degrees of freedom, so being able to look around and move around. So this quote is from Matthew Shipner. He's the former editor-in-chief of The Fader, which is an online site, and it has developed a lot of VR content and reviews. And the author for Seeing is Believing, The State of VR. And I think he says it best in a way, is that VR, at its best, shouldn't replace real life, just modify it, giving us access to so much just out of reach, physically, economically. If you can dream it, VR can make it. So it's very real, but not as real as real life. But it is going to be very interesting to see how people can develop and how people can be inspired to create their own projects on virtual reality and share that experience with other people. I want to say it again, it's not just about the games. They're fun, do not get me wrong. They're a lot of fun. But there are so many other applications for VR other than this gaming environment that we're talking about here. So I want to kind of get into some of those applications. And I've broken it down into 5 at this time, but there are so many more than just this. And it's incredible to see what people are coming up with every single day. So the 5 that I have right now that I'm going to go over are research, trainings, preservation, shared experiences, and empathy machine. Now, to start with research, I'm going to go over some of the things that we are doing at UNR and across campus at UNR too. So the medical department has always been working within research. But one of the main differences using VR is that we're able to use situational awareness and eye tracking for situations and trainings and simulations. So this is something that's never been done before in the sense of being able to know what the person was actually looking at when they were inside of the simulation or inside of the training. So you could say, oh, you need to pay a little bit more attention to the patient. Oh, you should probably pay attention to the doctor a little bit more. So these kind of things really are useful when you're thinking about training doctors, nurses, or anybody else in the medical field. Now, the psychology department has also been using 3D and 2D objects and seeing how we perceive and react to everyday objects. So they've taken this glass, for instance, and put it into a real world, and then they simulate it in a virtual world, and then they 3D scan it, and they put it back into a real world, and they take these scans, the EEG scans, and see how we react to these virtual objects compared to real objects. And that's a very interesting thing to look at, especially going into the future, and how VR can really affect people's decisions, and just a very baseline standpoint, like a glass or a spoon or anything like that. And of course, the computer science and engineering departments have been using VR in a multitude of different ways. Lots of students are developing on there, creating multiplayer games, so that not only can you be in VR, but you can be in VR with your friend. And you can be even in the same room in real life and still be in VR and interacting with each other in these kind of ways. And at the Knowledge Center, what we've been doing through the library there, we've developed a virtual reality lab called At Reality that has that students have access to no matter what discipline they are. So it's unlike most VR labs throughout the country, especially in education. This is open to all students. So any of these students that we're developing on this standpoint here can go into our lab, and they can rent out these spaces, and they can develop whatever projects they're working on. And of course, what I like to call real research, or playing the games, people can go in and take a study break. And it's actually been very effective for not only students, but faculty who are interested in developing on this platform as well. Now, we can also get into trainings. So, of course, the medical department is still at the top of the list when it comes down to that. And there have been surgical simulations that they put surgeons and doctors and nurses through, and it's an incredible amount of accuracy to put a surgeon through this environment without the risk of having a patient. So there are a lot of ways that you can train in these ways and train different situations. And having that control over your situations and over your trainings is really important for a lot of companies and a lot of development too. One of the main reasons that training for VR is people are so interested for having training in VR is a lot of accessibility issues and of course dangerous situations. The military has been using VR for quite a while now, doing a lot of tactical training. And that, as you can only imagine, is a lot safer in a lot of different ways than actually having somebody in the field and doing these kind of trainings. But it still has a lot of impact, and it actually does make a huge difference. When we're talking about sports, there are 7 NFL teams, 3 NBA teams, 1 Major League Baseball team, and the US ski team that uses VR as their trainings for their athletes. That might seem a little silly because you imagine I was running, but actually it has a huge amount of impact. And a lot of people have been using it for either free throw shots or how you act in a situation, team development. So using virtual reality for this kind of platform has actually been pretty successful for a lot of different teams. And the basketball teams that use that are the Wizards, the Capitals, and the Mystics. And they use this training all year round. And of course, we can also talk about workplace trainings, so driving simulations and many other different types. Pretty much anything that you could imagine, that's what you could offer for VR. Now, when we talk about preservation, this is one of the main things that we do at the library. We want to make sure that we preserve the culture as it is right now and hold on to that preservation throughout time. And what better way to do that than 360 video and a combination of 3D worlds. This project that I have on the board right now is called the Reno Street Art Project. We went around Reno for approximately 9 months filming the art murals that have been popping up all throughout town. We had something like over 180 different videos of all of the murals that we have recorded. And even to this day, I still see new murals popping up almost every week. So with this project, what we developed is that we went around and filmed these murals, but then we put it into a virtual map so that people can view these murals as if in a gallery. A lot of times, some of these are in locations that people might not want to go to. Sometimes they're in alleys, right next to the trash. But with this virtual gallery, everyone is able to experience these beautiful murals that have been all throughout Reno. And we have this as a demo for you guys afterward. You can come and check it out. This is what we've been working on through the Matthews and IGT Knowledge Center. So not only that kind of preservation, but it's also a wonderful thing because it's very finite. Some of these murals that we put into this experience are already gone. And we stopped filming really in, I think, the end of December. So it proves to you how important preserving this culture and keeping it that ethereal nature into it. So shared experiences. One of the most powerful things about VR is that you can really step into somebody else's shoes. And many, many networks have been using this for their 360 standpoint. So CNN, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal. They've been doing filming, even live filming of rallies, all sorts of different types of big news events that are going on. And from that point, you're not listening to somebody else's interpretation of the event, like you would with the news or an editor or anything like that. You are standing there as a participant in the event, and you can have that full experience, being completely immersed. So this is an example also of shared experience that we have collected through Burning Man, actually. And we have that's the best way of community, right? Having that shared experience in a very great community as Burning Man. Another way that you can have shared experiences is like a touring agency, much like our other VR guru in the room. And it's a wonderful way to be able to share with people throughout the world. One major group that has been doing this is called the Emblematic Group. And the Emblematic Group uses not only the shared experiences to put people in situations, but also by definitely using empathy. Now, empathy machine is what I think one of the most powerful things about VR. And when we're talking about the Emblematic Group, Nani Del Lopina, the mother of VR, the godmother of VR, that is what she's called, she has made a bunch of experiences that put you in situations that are not necessarily pleasant. Her experiences deal with racism, they deal with police brutality, they deal with these really hard issues that we're facing every day. But in VR, you get to feel it as a first-person experience and have that full reaction as if it was actually happening to you. And that is something that I think a lot of people really need to see, I think, firsthand to understand some of the situations that are going on. But being able to walk in people's shoes isn't always so heavy. A lot of times it's a great way to share experiences with people that might not be able to go. So the person that you see on the screen right now his name is Evan Gada. He is a student at the University of Nevada. He already has 2 degrees, and he also has cerebral palsy. He has been in a wheelchair his entire life. And even though he was 3 months premature, he has never let that hold him back. He's actually currently trying to get his master's degree in musical theater at the university. But he always wanted to go to Burning Man. And especially being regional and seeing everybody go, and especially being in the arts community, he wanted to see what it was like. He also has asthma. And if any of you have been to the playa dust is very unyielding, and it's very hard on, I think, everybody's lungs that stays out there for too long. So this was not a reality. This was not a real world reality for Evan. But through VR, we were able to share this experience and a few more. And we've developed a video about this, and we're going to play it right now, and then I'll come back after that.
That sound doesn't come from me.
Sorry, now you get the
Okay.
He was pining for a visit himself, and it was definitely going to be challenging for him. And then he brought up the fact that he has asthma, and I told him, oh no, man, you're not going to be able to do that.
There were conversations that I would have with Evan where I was about to go to Burning Man, or I'd just come.
For about 35 years. My grand forte is musical theater.
The theory was that if we were to give Evan a chance to go and experience Burning Man in a virtual setting, that it would give him a chance to finally participate in something that he had showed interest in for quite a few years.
I don't walk on my feet, and quietly, and just run quietly.
So when the opportunity came up to show him the festival with this VR environment that Michelle had put together, it was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer.
For someone who's never experienced VR, it's basically kind of a headset that you can wear and you can like look around and you're in a virtual world. Yeah, it's hard to describe if you've never tried it, and people that try it for the first time often are really excited or like they're a little shocked.
Oh my God.
We put together this room that allowed him to use his wheelchair in there. He could just experience full visuals.
Now for people with mobility problems, so people with severe motor impairments, so people that are confined to wheelchair, I think there's a lot of potential to kind of like transcend their body in a way and kind of offer them a high level of mobility by kind of being engaged in VR.
VR is going to be a very nice experience for anybody who's handicapped. I think it open new doors.
So we're just going to put you in there, and we'll see you when you get back from the playa.
It was really neat. His response was actually stronger than I expected it to be from him.
Oh my God. Oh wow.
How was it able to ski again?
I was in skis until I was 15 years old. You made it feel like I'm walking.
I'm glad that we were able to bring it to you again.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome.
I know towards the end of that experience, he was asking if other people were going to be allowed to have this experience, other people with disabilities.
I think VR is not just for me, for every handicapped person.
I think it really depends on people for this field to move forward, is to, to have people that can dream of applications that don't exist right now.
This chair is my friend, but it's awesome. Nice to be out of it for a while. And so thank you for taking me out of the chair for a while.
I think it started expanding his horizons in the sense that, oh, if I can experience this, how much more can be done?
Evan's story is an amazing example of the empathy machine that virtual reality can really bring to people. Now, since this video was put together and since this whole experience was put together and how it's really changed our lives, this video was accepted into SEMA Classroom, which is going worldwide, and his experience in virtual reality are being taught to students throughout the world. So either underprivileged or people in our hometown, anyone can learn Evan's experience. And one of the best things about it is now he's in a virtual reality class, and so he's taking classes, learning about virtual reality and doing development on that. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to have at Reality so that any student, like I said, any student can come in and check out the equipment, check out virtual reality, and be able to have these experiences like Evan did, and like so many more in the future. So this is going to lead me to my conclusion, and then I'll open it up to questions for everybody. But I think one of my favorite things about VR is the what if factor. Every time that we put a headset on somebody, somebody always comes up with a new idea. What if I use it for this? What if I use it for, what about this? And it's a wonderful thing to see. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to share that with people and have those great creative ideas come out of any type of discipline or any type of person. So what does virtual reality mean for your future, and how can you change the world? I'll open up the questions.
So, folks, just as a reminder to wait for the microphone, we're going to have Connie and Karen passing around mics. Who's first?
I'm a retired surgeon, and I was very fascinated, about the ideas of, training people, not just for surgery, but for all sorts of medical situations, and you could, as opposed to like computer simulation and stuff, you could come up with all sorts of different scenarios. And if you could expand upon it. And then I just have another question too. It's like, sort of, people that are terminally ill, there's lots of problems, people have tried medications, things like that, even kind of psychotropic agents, and it's really been difficult. So it's just, maybe if there's certain kind of out-of-life experiences or something, where virtual reality could have a role in that.
Absolutely. I'll start with the question about the medical simulations. So medical simulations research has always been really prevalent when you're thinking about medicine and how can we make it better. Well, with virtual reality, not only is it what I was talking about, where we're able to eye track and see where people are looking, but your surgeons are able to stand at a table with the instruments that are almost exactly in size. Even though you're not picking up the exact instruments in real life, your brain still thinks that you are. And you're able to put yourself through these situations, or even nurses, any type of medical field, in terms of these kinds of simulations, they're able to test it out before working on a real person. And that is absolutely incredible, being able to have that full first-person experience and have that training before. We had a nursing student, 2 nursing students that came in, and usually you rent out the models to look at the heart or the brain or the digestive system. We have a virtual simulation called Organon that is using virtual technology to see these systems in real time, right? The first time that she put it on, within 5 minutes, she said, and I quote, "Oh, I understand it now." Because she's able to walk around the heart. She can isolate the heart and the ventricles and how it's pumping through the body, and then isolate a different part of how it's working. And instead of using a plastic model that's in your hands, which is good for most people in many ways, but virtual reality, you're able to actually see it working in real time. Now, when we're talking about people with terminal illnesses, PTSD, and many of these other terrible problems that people have to deal with, and like you said, a lot of time overprescription and having to deal with even ghost pain when you're imagining these kinds of things. One example with PTSD is a game where you're throwing snowballs at penguins. And I know it sounds very simple and very carefree and lighthearted, but in that moment, there is no worry of PTSD, and it has long-lasting effects as well. They've been using this for a long time for treatment of PTSD so that they don't have to use really heavy medications. And with ghost pain, so illnesses and pain and those kind of things, say if somebody had lost their arm on the side, they can put on a virtual reality headset, and by using either the gloves or a controller, they can see what's a mirrored image on the hand on the other side. And it tricks the brain into thinking that that limb is still there, reducing pain by almost 85 to 95%. And that stays with multiple treatments, with multiple uses of VR, that rewiring of the brain actually stays, and it actually helps people with chronic illnesses. Yeah.
My question is more related to the negative I guess, repercussions of virtual reality, following the negative repercussions of social media and the hourly effects that it has on people's daily lives. Where if you can look through someone else's, let's say on an image in Instagram or Facebook, you're now outside of yourself. Now you can put that onto a headset. What's to keep people from ever wanting to live in reality?
So this is, I think, a question that we're going to be dealing with forever now that PC gaming, computer gaming is in prevalence now. Something that, get off your phones, right? But I don't know if you've ever heard of the Missing Millions in Japan. The Missing Millions in Japan are a group of young adults that don't go outside of their homes. They live in not just virtual reality, but a lot of PC gaming and gaming in that way. And there are a lot of repercussions from this type of entertainment that I think we're going to see for a very, very long time. But VR isn't the proponent of that. It really comes down to people being able to interact with the environment like they would in real life. So some people have extreme anxiety in real life. Maybe they have self-confidence issues or something about them that they can't interact. There's social platforms online where they're actually able to interact and to go out and make friends and to have this interaction that they might not have been able to have before. So even though there are negative repercussions for some of this technology, there's also a lot of really good positive things. So even though they're always in their headset, they feel connected. They are within a group that supports them. They're able to go out and have social interaction with people, even if that avatar is Donkey Kong or Garfield or a dragon. I mean, in some ways, they're using their imagination to connect with people that maybe they couldn't have done in real life.
You touched on this a little bit with your answer to the surgery question, but I'm curious how well VR tricks people. Like how much do we realize that it's a simulation? How do our brains respond differently in real life and to a situation in virtual reality?
Well, our brains respond very similarly to things that happen in virtual reality, and that's one of the reasons that A, it seems so real, and B, why people can become so immersed, and why trainings like this are so effective. In real life, we know that we can walk across and I can grab this glass from the table right now. In the virtual world, I can teleport over and I can grab this virtual glass from the table. Now, from personal experience, may or may not have played it for a little too long, and after taking off the headset, I wanted to teleport in real life and pick up this glass on the table. So your brain works very similarly in both worlds. And it's actually very fascinating that it does work like that. Now there are some repercussions of certain things like nausea. So people that are very prone to motion sickness, they can get nauseous with these headsets. And that has to do with a multitude of, if it's a very jarring game, things are moving really quickly, that can mess with your inner ear and kind of make you feel sick. At the same time, sometimes your vision isn't clear, so it's only 110 degrees of view within a headset, so it's about this much. And that blocking of the peripherals also causes some nausea. So there's some differences, but then at the same time, your brain thinks that it's real when it's happening. And you can take it off, and you're like, wow, I'm not surrounded by a bunch of dragons. But it is a very interesting experience to have such an immersive experience that your brain thinks and kind of tricks you to believe that it's real in that time.
A question about the use of VR for restoration of historic buildings, events, artwork, and so on. I recently had one example. I missed last month's event because I was in Europe, went to Milan, and there's the opportunity. You can either go and see Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, what's still left, or you can go to the museum that's an electronic reconstruction and a VR headset, where it's kind of put back into its original environment, original colors, original glory, which to some degree actually is more powerful than seeing the real thing. Are there more like initiatives or examples of bringing back, restoring
Absolutely,
things?
absolutely, and that's actually something that we're very focused on through the Knowledge Center. We're working on with the Pyramid Lake Tribe right now to preserve and to document the petroglyphs that are within that area. And that's actually cut off and not accessible to the public because of people that either want to deface it, or sometimes people just don't have the same ideas in mind, I guess. So it's cut off from the public and people cannot access it. But with virtual reality, we're hoping to bring that back to the public so that people can go to these places and really experience the petroglyphs in its true form and have that culture, give that culture back to the native people as well. So we're working on something within this, within our preservation projects, but many other people are working on it too. There's a recreation of the tea party, so you can throw the tea off into the harbor. That's probably very fun. And then there are a lot of preservation projects like that, so that you can revisit it as either being in our feast like that, or petroglyphs going through too. So there are a lot of projects in the works with that.
So with these models that are already created, the work that's already been done, if we wanted to experience it ourselves, what would we need? What would that look like?
Awesome. So there's two different ways that you can look at these. With mobile VR, like I said, there's certain limited controls, but you can still have access to quite a few of these situations. What you'll also need for a console or PC gaming, you'll need either the computer itself, which you'll need a high processing graphics card, and they run at about $1,200 for the computer. And then the headsets, the Vive, the Oculus, the Faux, there are, like you said, many that are out there. So a headset to interact with, and then the sensors to know where you are in the room. So the headset knows where you are in the room, and so you hopefully don't run into the wall. Hopefully, there's no guarantee there. But by having those three, being able to have a sensor, the headset, the controllers, and then the computer, you're able to interact with it in the 6 degrees of freedom like I was talking about.
All right, well, we are going to be ending the presentation in just a minute here, and I wanted to thank Michelle. That was really incredible. That's actually the second month in a row that I started getting a little misty-eyed because of the video that you showed and the topic last month. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. That was really great. The presentation online will be ending, the live stream will be ending, but the show's not over just quite yet. We're going to go ahead and move back the tables here, but before you get up, we're going to go ahead and pull some tickets, and we're going to, we're going to start with 4 tickets for people who are in line to use the virtual reality headsets, and then we're going to see if we can. We have people who are offering bribes, I think. And then if we have time for more, we'll do additional ones.
We have 2 headsets. So we have the 6 degrees of freedom, like I was talking about, the Vive is over here, and also the 3 degrees of freedom, which shows the videos that Evan saw. So a lot of those, either the ski video or Burning Man, and some of the street art stories that were associated with the artists that were involved in that too. So there's just videos and then the interactable world of the street art project.
All right, so if you are online and you're missing this, I apologize, but next month you'll have to come in. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Okay, clear.
Before we get up, I'm going to use the microphone and draw a couple of these tickets. I've already shuffled them up. So first one.